What is up on this Thursday night? Thank you for joining me as always, and welcome to the Crafts and Kickoffs bar, getting you ready for Thursday night football, talking about some of the biggest stories in the NFL this week, and we have a lot to get to. But first, my question always, what are you drinking? This is a repeat drink for me this football season. I figured tomorrow is Halloween. Happy Halloween to those who celebrate. And it just kind of fit. The Jacko. Had to go Jacko. So Sam Adams Jacko Pumpkin Ale on the night before Halloween. Just figured it was the absolute perfect choice. Of course, 4.4 ABV. It's a great beer. Tastes a lot like pumpkin. It's light. I love it. So happy Thursday night to all of you. So good. So good. Maryland drinking Sam Adams Oktoberfest. Makes sense. Only 2 nights left until October is over. And I told Marilyn on the chat, if you look it up, I actually have a 12-pack of Sam Oktoberfest sitting downstairs. I have not even put it in my beer fridge yet. You got to stay home more often on the weekends so I can start drinking that beer out of my fridge. So that would help. Caveman Curtis having an ice-cold Guinness in a frosty mug tonight. Guinness, a classic, an absolute classic. How about Mr. Snoopy? A bulletproof coffee, 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, heavy cream, and a French roast coffee mix with the blender, and drink it. It fills you up. I am not a big coffee guy. I'll take your word for it. Sounds very interesting. Mr. Magoo, Shipyard Pumpkinhead, go Pats. So again, I appreciate every single one of you. Artie, how are you? Thanks for joining us as always. I appreciate you. All right, let's start with story number 5. I want to talk about a contract. Aiden Hutchinson of the Detroit Lions signed a 4-year extension this week, $141 million guaranteed. That is the record for a non-quarterback contract regarding guaranteed money in the NFL. Nobody outside of the quarterback position has been paid more guaranteed money on a single deal than Aiden Hutchinson. Number one, defensive edges, pass rushers are insanely valuable. They are one of the premier positions in the entire league. You look at defensive end, you look at cornerback, you look at left tackle. Of course, you look at quarterback. Edges are insanely valuable. And the Hutchinson contract tells us that. When you're paying $141 million guaranteed to a non-quarterback, it's going to be one of those premier positions. And that's why he's getting paid that amount of money. But I want to look at this from the bigger picture. And I want you to think about your favorite football team and ask the question, is your team doing it right? Is your team building it right? The Lions have now spent $968.5 million, almost $1 billion, to sign 9 of their best players on the roster. Almost $1 billion. And we pay a lot of attention to Dan Campbell because he's so polarizing. People love him on the sidelines. He goes for it all the time on 4th down. And, he's just a very charismatic coach. People love Dan Campbell. They love talking about Dan Campbell. But the Lions' success, the reason why they have continued to be one of the better teams in football, is because they have built this old school. Draft and develop. Draft the talent, develop the talent. I mean, you look at what the Lions have done in the draft. A great job. I mean, all the hits that they have had the past couple of years. I'm not going to name all of them, but Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Branch, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta. The Detroit Lions have done a spectacular job of nailing the draft. And you're not going to hit on every single pick, as we know. But if you hit as much as Detroit has hit, you have the chance to be a successful program for a long time. So, number one, hit on the draft. Number two, hit on developing those draft picks. You can draft somebody who's really good, but if you fail to develop them, that's not going to help you out. So hit in the draft, do a good job of developing that young talent, and then a lot of teams don't like this, a lot of owners don't like this, but then pay your young talent, extend your young talent. And that's what the Lions have done. They have hit on a ton of draft picks. They have hit on developing those picks, and they have spent almost $1 billion to hold on to that young talent, and that builds a foundation. That's what the Lions are doing. Draft and develop, and then keep your players. Keep your best players so you don't have to dip into free agency. Free agency more and more is becoming a losing proposition for the most part. You can get short-term fixes, but you're not going to build your team through free agency. So if you want to know, Detroit, yes, Dan Campbell, great story. Jared Goff's played very well. All those things. The new coordinators have done a very good job. All of those things are true. But at the heart of Detroit's success is drafting well, developing well, and then holding on to those players by paying them and making sure they're happy. That's how it works. And Detroit's done a fantastic job of doing that. All right, let me jump into the super chat. Terry with a $50 super chat. Thank you, Terry. Appreciate your generosity. Nick, do you remember I dared you to drink a sip of Starbucks coffee live if the Pats made the playoffs? At the time, it seemed crazy, but you might have to. I do remember that. I'm a little afraid that I'm going to actually like coffee. I might have Kelly get me a coffee that I know that I won't like. I have lived my entire life without drinking coffee. I don't want to start now, but I do remember that bet. So we'll see. Halfway through the season, things are looking good. But thank you so much, Terry, for the $50 super chat and your continued support and your presence. Does Kelly have a Nespresso machine? No, I don't think so. She's got the, what do you call that thing with the Keurig? She has a Keurig I bought her a number of years ago. But I don't think she has an espresso. But honestly, I don't pay close enough attention. If she does, she watches this all the time. I told her to jump on the chat, but she doesn't want to. If she's watching, which I'm sure she's watching right now as she's having a beer herself and whipping dinner up for us. If she's watching this right now, she's probably yelling at me saying, yes, I have an espresso machine if she has one. I don't think she does, though. But again, I'm not a coffee person, so I don't know. All right, let's get to story number 4. And again, Terry, thank you. I appreciate you. So last week, I mentioned this on the Locked On NFL podcast that I do with Tyler Rowland. You guys can check it out on Friday mornings. After watching last Thursday night, every single drive for Minnesota, Carson Wentz looked like he was dying. He looked like he was dead. And I think at a certain point, Kirk Herbstreit actually, I don't know if you'd say criticized him, but he was tiptoeing close to criticizing Carson Wentz for the histrionics. Well, now we know why. Now we know why Carson Wentz looked dead every series, looked dead every time he was hit, because he was playing with a torn labrum. Oh, and he went into that game with bruised ribs. So he's playing with a torn labrum and bruised ribs. And this made me kind of question what Minnesota's doing. So Minnesota felt better about their chances of winning that game last week with a quarterback who had a torn labrum and bruised ribs. Now, I agree. I see Maryland saying mad respect for Carson. I agree. Mad respect for Carson Wentz. But if you're the Vikings, you think Carson Wentz gives you, in that condition, a better chance to win than your third-string quarterback, who is really, he was your third string last week, Max Brosmer? If that's true, then that says an awful lot about Max Brosmer, who was a young guy. But you put Carson Wentz out there. Number 2, how do you keep Carson Wentz in that game? He looks like he's dying every single series. You're getting your butts whooped. There was no chance the Vikings were winning that game. And they kept rolling Carson Wentz out there. And now knowing the condition that Carson Wentz was in, isn't that brutal? I mean, why would you keep sending him out there? You're down multiple scores. Dude's got a torn labrum and bruised ribs. He's getting pounded every single series. And you're like, nah. Just stay out there. We might have a chance. I don't even care if Carson Wentz was like, I want to keep playing. I would have been like, look, Carson, we're getting beat. We're getting beat soundly. We're not playing good football. You're not playing particularly good football right now. I would say partially due to your injury. So what we're going to do is we are going to sit you down. And we might sacrifice this game that we don't have a great chance of winning, but we're not going to put you out there in the crosshairs when you're already hurt. It's kind of crazy to me that he was playing bad football. The team was down by multiple scores, and they kept playing him through this injury. It's kind of madness. And I also wonder, is anyone in that Vikings locker room looking over at J.J. McCarthy? Now, I'm not here to question J.J. McCarthy's toughness. He's got a high ankle sprain. Those can keep you out for at least 8 weeks. I mean, it's like a 6 to 8 week injury usually. I'm not here questioning J.J. McCarthy's toughness. I don't do that to professional athletes. I'm not comfortable doing that because I don't know the personal pain that they're going through. I don't know how bad the injury is. A lot of times injuries are much worse than we even know. But if you are a Vikings player and you're looking at Carson Wentz literally peel himself off the field, and you know he's playing with a torn labrum, and then you look at your second-year quarterback who already missed the entire season in 2024, and he has a high ankle sprain, and he's not going out there and playing. I just wonder how that was, reacted to in the locker room. How did the guys respond to that? Interesting question. Now, J.J. McCarthy is ready. He is expected to play on Sunday against the Lions in Detroit. Good luck to him. All eyes on his development. But some interesting things after we found out about Carson Wentz's injury. All right. What are you drinking? I always ask you on Thursday nights as we hang out at the Crafts and Kickoffs bar. I am drinking a Sam Adams Jack-O to celebrate Halloween tomorrow night. Hopefully you with young children have a great time with your kids tomorrow night. I appreciate every single one of you. Let me know what you're drinking in the comments. Also, of course, got to remind you, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Watching on Facebook, watching on YouTube. Don't forget to give us that like. Helps us out. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to comment. And don't forget to subscribe. All right. Story number 3. Let's get to A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is a fascinating person. And as we get closer to the trading deadline, we are 5 days away from the trading deadline. It is hitting on Tuesday afternoon. And inevitably, one of the biggest questions is, will the Eagles trade A.J. Brown or will they not trade A.J. Brown? Now, he missed last week's game to a hamstring, and he had more cryptic social media messages since we last spoke of A.J. Brown. That is kind of what he does. That's not, a surprise. He loves going to social media and sending cryptic messages. I think this week he was deleting pictures or deleting references to Jalen Hurts from some of his social media accounts. So the drama continues for Brown in Philadelphia. Now, ESPN reported that it is not expected for the Eagles to trade A.J. Brown. And I would say I don't expect to win the lottery. Doesn't mean I won't win the lottery. It just means I don't expect to win the lottery. So the Eagles saying they don't expect to move Brown doesn't mean that they won't move Brown. We'll have more on that in just a minute. But, what's going on with A.J. Brown? What is the issue? Diana Rossini over at The Athletic, and by the way, Kelly jumped into the comments. She figured it out. There's my wifey. I do not have an espresso machine. Keurig with the side steamer, but don't use the steamer part often. So there you go. I was right. I'm very happy I was right about that. All right, back to A.J. Brown, Diana Rossini. Here's what she wrote about Brown recently. He's clearly losing patience. It's obvious something has changed between Brown and Hurts on the field. The Eagles will say everything is fine, but many around the league can see it plainly on the film. An opposing defensive coach said he actually understands Brown's frustration. Here's what the defensive coach said, quote, Hurts struggles against zone. That's when AJ goes MIA. There are times it looks like Hurts doesn't fully trust what he's seeing, so he checks it down and plays it safe. It's either a deep shot or a check down. Not much in between. The timing is just off, and you can see it on the field. The communication between Hurts and Brown just isn't there right now, unquote. So the defensive coach says if you watch the film, you understand why A.J. Brown's not happy. If they're playing against zone, A.J. Brown pretty much should just sit on the sidelines and not worry about being involved. And the communication is a bit of a mess between the quarterback and one of his top receivers. Now, as far as the Eagles not expecting to trade A.J. Brown, here's what Rossini wrote in The Athletic. GM Howie Roseman will always listen. And if the Eagles get an exorbitant offer, nobody is untradeable in Philadelphia. So, as far as how they're handling this and telling ESPN they don't expect to trade A.J. Brown, and then Diana Rossini writing that, Howie Roseman will always listen. And if the Eagles get an exorbitant offer, nobody is untradeable. That's telling me that he is tradable. They will trade. They will absolutely trade A.J. Brown if, and it's a big if they get the type of offer that they think is worthwhile. But A.J. Brown is not untouchable. And we should know that by, checking out the ESPN story and the Athletic story, how this is being handled, what the semantics are. So is A.J. Brown available? Yes. I think A.J. Brown is available for the right price. And I think that the Eagles will be looking for an awful lot, whether it's 2 first-round picks or a first-round pick, a player, and more picks. But if you want A.J. Brown, you have to give up the mother load of offers. But he is available. I feel like he's available. And if a team called Philly and, offered an embarrassment of riches, I think the Eagles would pull the trigger. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen because Philly is defending Super Bowl champions and they're going to want, again, that king's ransom. And I don't think any team is going to be willing to give up a king's ransom for A.J. Brown. Financially, it's going to cost the Eagles tens of millions of dollars of a dead cap hit. Over the cap has it at like $55 million or so. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN said it will cost them $90 million. I don't know about that. I don't know if it's a $90 million cap hit. It's a pretty big difference between what Over the Cap says and what Jeremy Fowler says. But I do not think Brown gets traded this season. But I also don't think A.J. Brown is in Philadelphia in 2026. I think he is long gone. I would be shocked. I would be stunned, absolutely stunned, if A.J. Brown is a Philadelphia Eagle in 2026. I think they try to make this work the rest of the year, and they try to make another run. And then once the season is over, it's time to reassess. Let's see. Anonymous jumps in with a super chat, $20 super chat. Thank you, Anonymous. Cannot think of a good super chat, so happy Halloween all. Patriots for the win. I just finished, before I jumped on here and opened up the Crafts and Kickoffs bar tonight, I just finished my preview, my deep dive preview of Falcons-Patriots with the Locked On Patriots podcast. That'll be coming out early in the morning. Check it out. A lot of good information in there. But thank you, Anonymous. Thank you for the $20 super chat, always for the support. Marilyn jumps in with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Marilyn. Sharing for my daughter on Sunday in the New York City Marathon. Wow. Hope she makes her personal goal of sub 4 hours. Hubby and I fly out tomorrow. We'll be there for 5 days. Too bad that I'm not in the Northeast anymore. I might have tried to find you somehow, some way, and meet you halfway. But Marilyn, good luck to your daughter. And hopefully she breaks that personal goal of the sub 4 hours. But I appreciate you jumping in with that super chat. I appreciate all of you that jump in with those super chats and support the program. All right, story number 2. I got to talk about the Ravens' handling of Lamar Jackson and what the hell happened there. Lamar Jackson is set to return tonight in Miami. The Ravens are 2-5. Amazingly, they're still the favorites in the AFC North because the AFC North is not very good. Pittsburgh, not very good. Cincinnati, not very good. Cleveland, terrible. So even though the Ravens are 2-5, they are still the betting favorites to win the division, which is bananas. The biggest story, though, was how Baltimore handled Lamar Jackson before last week's game. The Ravens posted on Saturday There has been an update to Lamar Jackson's Friday practice and game status. Jackson was downgraded from a full practice participant to limited, and he has been ruled out for tomorrow's game versus Chicago. Now, this was interesting because the report comes out after you practice. So it's either Lamar Jackson practiced in full or he didn't. This isn't tough. This isn't rocket science. He either practiced in full or he didn't practice in full. Now, so there's an obvious issue here with wrongly reporting injury status for any team that's involved. It's tough for Chicago because Chicago's trying to game plan, and if they think that Lamar Jackson practiced full, then they're thinking they're going to play against Lamar Jackson on Sunday. And so that's a big-time issue. And then this was on the heels of the NBA gambling scandal, which made this look even worse. So not only are you putting Chicago behind the eight ball and unfairly, messing around with some of the specifics as far as the injury report goes, but you're also putting the league out there on Front Street as the NBA is going through all these gambling things. Like with the amount of gambling happening in this country, you can't mess up the injury designation. That is a big problem for the NFL. They can't have that happen. And so the point spread, I think, dropped from like 6.5 to I think it was like a point or a point and a half. If you bet the Ravens, now it ended up not hurting because the Ravens still won pretty easily. But, if you bet the Ravens at 6.5 and it ends up being a field goal game, and you bet the Ravens because of Lamar Jackson's, status was full participant, and then the Ravens run the okey doke and say, sorry, he's not really a full participant. He's now limited. And now he's out. Well, if you bet on the prior information, you're going to be pretty angry about it. So this was not good. Wasn't good for the Ravens. Wasn't good for the Bears. And especially was not good for the NFL. The Ravens came out with a statement and said Lamar Jackson was present and participated fully in their entire Friday practice. But upon further evaluation and after conferring with the league office, because Lamar did not take starter reps in practice, they updated their report to reflect his practice participation. What? I'm confused. You don't list designations just for starters. At least I don't think you do. So why does it necessarily matter if he was out there taking starter reps? And if you designate him as a full participant, if you designate Lamar Jackson as a full participant, would that not mean that he took all the meaningful snaps? So what was the confusion here from the Baltimore Ravens side? By the way, their head coach, John Harbaugh, has been a head coach in the NFL since 2008. He has more than enough experience dealing with injury reports and injury designations. And it seems to me that the Ravens did something super sketchy here, and they tried to figure out a way to make it sound less bad. Oh, well, he was there and he was practicing fully and he practiced throughout the whole practice, but he wasn't practicing with the starters the whole time. So we thought, what? I mean, you should know if he's taking all the meaningful snaps, then he's a full participant, if that's the case. So it just seems to me, Harbaugh said it was an honest mistake. And who knows? Who knows if it was done maliciously, but it certainly stinks. It absolutely stinks. And does it really matter? I don't know if it really matters, right? Like the NFL is reviewing the situation, but the Ravens are guilty no matter what. Whether you did it by accident, whether you had an honest mistake, or if you're the Ravens and you did it intentionally, it's still a violation. And it's still a bad violation. So the confusion around it doesn't necessarily matter. If I'm the NFL, you violated a rule, and it's a significant rule. And the NFL, they could fine the Ravens if they want. They can actually take draft picks away from the Ravens if they decide to do so. They can even go as far as suspending people because of this injury designation screw up. I don't know how long the investigation is going to last. I don't know if they're going to pull an NBA with the Clippers, and we'll find out week 18 what happened. But this is a serious violation, and whether it was done with intention or not, with intent or not, it's still a serious violation, and the NFL should absolutely punish the Ravens for this. Now, I think they'll end up punishing them with a fine, but maybe they get a worse punishment because of the NBA stuff. I'm sure the NFL was not thrilled when this happened at all. What are you drinking? Let me know. I'm having a Jacko night before Halloween. Happy Halloween. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me jump to a $2 super chat from Mr. Snoopy. Has a Josh McDaniels question. Why is McDaniels so scared of playing Terrell Jennings more? Well, number one, I think that's more of a Mike Vrabel call, really. Number two, Mr. Snoopy, Ramondre Stevenson's been playing well. You go back to the fumbles against the Steelers and all of that, but Ramondre Stevenson's been playing pretty good football. I thought he was one of the best players on the field against Cleveland. And, if you're playing Stevenson and you want to get Travion Henderson more involved, which I think all of us would like to see Travion get going, and hopefully last weekend that was the beginning of it. But, it's difficult to find a bunch of snaps for Terrell Jennings. Now, with that said, Ramondre Stevenson did not practice yesterday. He did not practice today. And so usually when players miss Thursday's practice, it's not great for their availability on Sunday. I would not be surprised whatsoever if Stevenson is out on Sunday, which would absolutely set up Terrell Jennings to be used more. So we'll see how that works out. All right, let's wrap it up. And thank you for joining me here at the Crafts and Kickoffs bar. But let's wrap it up with some top matchups for Week 9. Vikings at the Lions, interesting. Obviously we just talked about J.J. McCarthy earlier, but McCarthy's going to be back out there. He's ready to play. He's fully healthy. He's going to start. This is an in-division rivalry, an in-division game, which is always tough. Minnesota, by the way, they are 3-5. You likely need 10 or 11 wins to get into the playoffs in the NFC. So if they lose this weekend, they're pretty much dead. They're probably dead. So huge game for Minnesota on the road. McCarthy hasn't played in weeks. So it'll be fascinating to see what J.J. McCarthy looks like. And as I said, we've talked about it. The clock is ticking on J.J. McCarthy. If he looks like crap the remainder of this year, I don't think Minnesota can mess around. I think they got to go get a quarterback and have a competition next year. Kind of crazy after what they did, in the draft in 24 to get McCarthy, but it is what it is. All right, game number 2. This might surprise you, but the Falcons at the Patriots. It's an interesting game because Atlanta's season is likely on the line. Atlanta has been Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde this year. You don't know which Atlanta you're going to get. They just got absolutely bludgeoned by the Miami Dolphins of all teams in Atlanta. Meanwhile, you got the Patriots who are hot. They've won 5 straight. And next weekend, they play at Tampa. And so will they overlook the Falcons because they're focused on the Tampa game? They can't do that. Who plays for the Falcons? Who plays, for the Patriots? So that's an interesting game, but the game of the week is an obvious one, right? And by the way, let me slide Greg's super chat in here. Thanks as always for what I consider the start of Thursday Night Football. Night all. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate you. That was the whole thought and hope that people would be joining us on these Thursday nights, and it would be the beginning of Thursday Night Football. But the biggest game is an obvious one. We all know it. I've seen several people throw it into the chat. It's the Chiefs at the Bills. Kansas City at Buffalo. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Every time these guys play against each other, I'm kind of just expecting an epic battle. Now, Josh Allen doesn't have the weapons that he's had, and the Bills' offense has been a little bit messy last week after their bye. Looked like they straightened some things out. They, for whatever reason, did not run James Cook as consistently for a few weeks there, and I thought that it hurt their offense. They have to run James Cook. The offense, as great as Josh Allen is, the offense is really based off James Cook. And I talked about that in the Bills-Patriots preview for Locked On Patriots, that everybody focuses on Josh Allen. And again, he's great, MVP last year, but this offense is about James Cook. If James Cook runs the football effectively, this offense is so much more dangerous. If you can limit James Cook and you put the game in the hands of Josh Allen, Keon Coleman is not separating. He has not been very good, considering that, he was a top pick for the Bills in 2024. Khalil Shakir is a good receiver, but he's mostly a yards after catch guy. They don't really have much else. And, Kincaid and Knox are good tight ends, but if you can do a good job, against James Cook, then you're going to likely do a good job against the Bills offense. Meanwhile, as the Bills have been a little up and down, KC is cooking. And I said this a few weeks ago. If people were sleeping on the Kansas City Chiefs, they were making a big, big mistake. Patrick Mahomes is playing arguably the best football he has played in a number of years. Xavier Worthy coming back, Rashee Rice coming back, that has changed the entire dynamic of that offense. Everybody slots into a perfect position now. You don't have to bank on Travis Kelce being the guy. So, when you look around, they've got 4 or 5 receivers that are really perfectly slotted in what they should be doing. And Mahomes is just playing really good football. And as much as we talk about the Indianapolis Colts, and as much as you might be talking about the Patriots, I still think people watch this game on Sunday between the Chiefs and the Bills, and I still think they walk away and likely look at whoever wins this game as still being the favorite in the AFC. And until one of these two teams gets knocked off, I think that's going to be the case. So, huge game on Sunday. The Chiefs at the Bills. We will see which quarterback plays better and who wins that football game. All right, everybody, enjoy your Thursday night football. Enjoy your weekend. If you're a Patriots fan, I do Locked On Patriots live post-game on Sunday. Of course, tomorrow morning on Friday, you will get the Locked On Patriots Falcons preview, a deep dive. I appreciate every single one of you. Enjoy your drinks. Thank you for the super chats. And I'll be back next week, 7 p.m. Crafts and Kickoff Spar opens up every Thursday night.